unquestioned assumption that appears to be shared by most people who work full-time at the State Department, and most of Washington, in fact, is that fighting Russia is crucial to America's interests. By the way, the public doesn't believe this at all, but everybody in D.C. thinks that fighting Russia, whether it's in Ukraine or Georgia or Latvia, is essential, and that Americans should be forced to risk their lives, spend billions of dollars to keep Russia out of those countries. But as noted, every survey of this subject shows the same thing. The public doesn't agree. Here's a new one, a survey by the Eurasia Group Foundation. And it found what the rest of them have found. Even if Russia outright invaded a U.S. ally in the Baltic States region, a region most Americans couldn't find at gunpoint, only half of Americans would favor a military response. Mark Hanna is a senior fellow at the Eurasia Group Foundation, and he joins us tonight. Mark, thanks so much for coming on tonight. So why is it, I mean, your survey tells us what I think previous surveys have told us. Why is it that nobody in Washington cares? They just don't care what the public thinks about this. Why?
Well, I think, you've heard a couple of these foreign service officers say that there was this robust, spirited sort of public debate around the topic of Ukraine policy. And I don't think that actually, when Washington talks about the public, they're not talking about ordinary Americans. They're often talking about, sort of think tank types and people and foreign policy journals. And so I don't think that they understand, frankly, or are that concerned that, if we were called upon to live up to our NATO treaties, Article 5, where we have to treat an attack on one ally as an attack on ourselves, there's very little willingness, especially after the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, to actually respond militarily. And that crosses generational boundaries, partisan boundaries. That's not a partisan issue.
And yet, just quickly, the people who got us into those wars, who've diminished America's prestige and power abroad, are still the ones making the decisions about our foreign policy. Like, how is that?
To some extent, yeah. I mean, you're a career diplomat, and you're going to continue working for the State Department, or you're going to be part of the national security apparatus. It's interesting, both parties seem to be kind of falling over themselves trying to make a case for, an expansive foreign policy in that part of the world, whether it's Democrats who are talking about, democracy promotion in Ukraine, and somehow if Russia increases its influence, the American influence go down as a zero-sum game. Then you have even Republicans are talking about, under Trump, we gave them more Javelin missiles and we gave them more lethal aid. And they're trying to, out-hawk each other when, in fact, that's not what the American people want. And if we're going to promote democracy in Ukraine, you have to be sensitive to the popular will here at home.
But why would we promote it? I mean, this whole thing is like nuts, actually. And if you say that, you're a Russian agent, but I no longer care. Mark, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Tucker.